How's it rockin', Dween Nation? This is the Dween Sports Podcast. We're about to get underway. But before we do, we'd love if you could like, comment, subscribe, or share. We are posting weekly sports content, and we want to build up the brand that is Dween Sports. Thank you all, and enjoy.
All right, Jano, let's talk about the New York Giants, the last team we're going to discuss in the NFC East. New quarterbacks in the locker room, Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston. This is like meme central here, but it's somewhat exciting for fantasy. I don't know about the long-term aspects for the Giants, but before we dive into everything else about the team, tell me what you think about this quarterback room. How do you think it's going to play out? Who do you think might start?
Well, Justin, for me, I think I like Russell Wilson off the bat as a starter. I think he was able to redeem himself this past year in Pittsburgh. And you know what, Justin? I think that helps me kind of want to see what the Giants go in the draft. But I think that Jameis Winston, I think that he's also a solid starter. But you know what? Who's rejoicing? Anybody who drafts Malik Neighbors this year in fantasy, Justin, either way, he's going to be good because if Russell Wilson were to miss a game due to injury or maybe performance is not so high, you best believe that Jameis Winston is going to throw it all out. He's going to sling it. And I do believe that they still have Tommy DeVito, right, as the third quarterback. He is the third quarterback in New York. So he also has some, chemistry with Malik Neighbors. He was, I think, the quarterback behind Malik Neighbors, winning you guys his championships. Week 17, Malik Neighbors was a league winner. And I think that it should be Russell Wilson because he's the most poised. He's has experience. I think him and Dable can coexist. Jameis is a little goofy. I think he's a great locker room guy, a great second guy, a great, quarterback to get the offense riled up, that offensive line, a little motivation speech if they're down at half. But I think that Russell Wilson's the guy to start.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I do think they were going to go with Russell Wilson. For fantasy purposes, I would be a little bit more excited if they went Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think Russell obviously is the more proven guy, he's safer. He's a safer play. Where I think Winston definitely has he has a higher ceiling with what he can do with this offense, but a much lower floor. But I want to pose this question to you because I feel like it's pretty out of the question that with the Giants signing Russell and Jameis, I don't think quarterback is a play for them at 3. You don't think so either, right?
Absolutely not, Justin. I think the no-brainer here is to go Travis Hunter. I've been saying this and speaking this to the choir. Last offseason, you lost your spark in Saquon Barkley. He went to your divisional rival. It's time to gain that spark back, right? It's time to go with Travis Hunter. He is sensational. He's the reigning Heisman winner. He can play both sides. And Justin, for fantasy's sake, we want to see Travis Hunter lining up on the other side of Malik Neighbors. And if it's Jameis Winston throwing it to him, I mean, fantasy league championships will be won. But Russell Wilson as well could be a great quarterback. The only thing with Russell, he kind of dies down, right? I remember the 2020 COVID season. He was on pace to be MVP and throw 50 touchdowns. And he, his first 5 or 6 games, Justin, he had about almost 30 touchdown passes. And then he just really died down the last 5, seasons of the fantasy year, and he just wasn't the same. He had DK Metcalf on fire. He had Tyler Lockett on fire. He had other, David Moore and guys like that. And so that's one thing about Russell that worries me. But I think that the pick here is Travis Hunter. But I feel like also Abdul Carter wouldn't hurt. I think that he'd be a sensational piece to that New York defense. And so, Justin, I really think that Travis Hunter, though, has the potential to just transform New York for sure.
No, I definitely agree. I think Hunter is the move for them. As much as Abdul Carter is a top-tier athlete, I think, they have Brian Burns, they got Kayvon Thibodeau, they got Dexter Lawrence. So They have a really solid front line. I think Travis Hunter would be a good spot for them on the defense and offense. But with Travis Hunter, there comes a discussion, especially fantasy-wise, especially dynasty football-wise. Where do you think you want to draft him, though? Because there is some uncertainty. Is he going to be a corner? Is he going to be a wide receiver? Is he going to play every snap of a football game? What do you kind of think, and what are your outlook with him there?
Justin, that it's very interesting at this point near the draft that it's not really declared if Travis Hunter is going to be a corner or wide receiver. I will say that as a wide receiver, Justin, you have the ability to be paid at an all-time high level. I think Derek Stingley, right? I think he had a $90 million contract, 94. But if you're a wide receiver, Justin, you can make 120, 125 plus bonus guaranteed there. And you have more spotlight, more shine. Your jersey sales will immediately go up as well if you're a wide receiver because a lot of these kids are now starting to play fantasy football. A lot of these kids are starting to play Madden and online and all that good stuff. And a lot. If you're playing Madden, you're not really using a corner all the time. You're using the linebacker. We're Madden players, But if you're a wide receiver, you want to throw to the Jamar Chases, the Justin Jefferson every play you get, the AJ Browns, or even if like a running back, you want to use the McCaffreys every play, the Saquon Barkleys. It's fun, it's entertaining. So I think for Travis Hunter, his value goes higher if he is a wide receiver.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that, and if you look at his pro day that he had this past week, most of his reps and snaps were out of the wide receiver position. So I think he personally favors wide receiver. I think we all kind of want him to be wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
I think by maybe year 4, year 5, he's going to become solely a wide receiver. So I don't think if you're in dynasty leagues and you're like, can I draft him or will I not get enough snaps out of him? I think you can draft him with full confidence because I do think early on he will play both sides of the ball, but he'll only be on offense to get the ball. They're not going to put him on offense on, 1st and 10 running the ball or a 3rd and 1 where that Tracy's going to get it out of the backfield.
Yeah.
So we won't see a lot of those blocking plays out of Hunter. I think he'll come in to get some really meaningful snaps, catches, all of that. So be excited with Travis Hunter. Even though this is a hypothetical that he goes to New York, but I think that is a favorite landing spot. But moving past that, let's talk about Tyrone Tracy. He's the current lead back in the backfield. They still got Devin Singletary. But do you think this is a place where the Giants might go to the draft, or you think Tracy's going to be their guy heading into 2025?
Justin, I would say this, actually. The fact that they kept Singletary is an indicator that Tracy will be the guy. And there's a chance that New York might not look into the running backs until maybe their last pick. So I'm thinking 5th or 6th round. I'm projecting that the Giants get a running back. I think they want to beef up that O-line a little bit. They might beef up, get a couple linebackers, get some help on that secondary. I think that's probably what New York is going to do. I think Dable kind of figures his offense is going to be set there. And I think that it's very interesting. I think that with the Giants, they need defensive help, like the back. I would say the secondary. So I think Tracy is going to be the guy going forward. I actually am a fan of Tracy. He was a rookie last year, right? He was out of Purdue, I want to believe. So he had a pretty good rookie year. And I think that, I had him in 2 leagues, in our uncle's league and in our elite league, and he was pretty good. It was basically matchup based though with him. If he was facing a defense that was probably going to be in the playoffs and that year, probably not, but I think he had a great game. I want to say it was against Carolina and London. He had a really good game there, and he's really good against bad defense. But I think this year he will take the step forward. I'm probably going to draft him possibly in the 4th or 5th round. And I think our dynasty's already drafted, but I think for sure 4th or 5th round though in regular standard leagues.
I think I would maybe go a little later, but I think he's like an RB3 in that RB 24, 25 range, because I do agree the fact that they haven't brought anybody else in, I don't think that's their goal. They have a lot of other holes on this team that they're going to want to fill. And Tracy, a really impressive rookie year, really, because you started with Devin Singletary, a 6-year veteran, and he overtook him and became the lead back, 10 weeks into the season, maybe even earlier than that. So Tracy really, I think, established himself as the guy for the Giants. I expect him to go in that 6th, 7th round because, the Giants are still not the hottest team. So people are going to say, oh, well, they're going to be in a lot of negative game strips where they're not running the football. I could see that. But I think Tracy's got the goods for a good second year. But last 2 guys we can really talk about. Obviously, Malik Neighbors. He's going to go in that maybe late 1st, early 2nd. Is that what kind of where you're putting him in the drafts this year?
I would say late 2nd going into 3rd.
Oh, late 2nd. Okay.
Late 2nd going into 3rd. I'd take AJ Brown over him. I don't know if I want, Neighbors is up there. The thing is, it's very interesting to see where Brian Thomas goes because any draft, Justin, if Brian Thomas goes first, the next person who's drafting is automatically going to think, oh, well, let's go Neighbors. I think that's always going to be those 2 wide receivers are going to be connected to each other, in my opinion, because they're both LSU guys, both had sensational rookie years, and both are trending towards a really good 2025 season. And so I'm saying mid 2nd to late, for sure late 2nd, but by early 3rd, he's gone. He's not middle of the 3rd.
All right. I have him more I actually have him leaning towards the early 2nd, but does it change? Does your thoughts change at all if Hunter is in the offense versus not?
Not at all. Not at all. For me, it's better with Travis Hunter in the offense, to be honest, because Hunter might split snaps between defense and offense. So he might not get so much offense, but they will target him for sure. Not saying they won't. But whether Hunter's there or not, I still love Neighbors because he was able to do it without Hunter this rookie year.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And just say hypothetically, because I strongly believe Travis Hunter will end up as a Giant. What are your thoughts with all the other pieces? Theo Johnson, Wandale Robinson, Darius Slayton. Who else is on it? Jalen Hyatt. Like, do you have any thoughts on if they're going to have value or they might be waiver wire guys?
I think Theo Johnson will be a waiver wire guy. He is the tight end, I believe, right, Justin?
Yes, correct.
And I think that Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston, the tight end is going to definitely get about 6 to 7 targets per game. I definitely like looks in the red zone. Wando Robinson is a deep sleeper. In fact, I'd probably say I would draft Wandale Robinson right before I get my defense and kicker. So like one of those last picks, 14th, 15th round, you already got your 5 backs. Some leagues like ours, Justin, it's a limit, right? 5 or 6 running backs. We might have our, 2 quarterbacks and such. And so Theo Johnson's another guy that falls in that range where I might actually draft him. Like I might get my defense. And then if I'm like right back to back, I might get me that backup tight end and then the kicker. So I like Theo Johnson. He's a deep sleeper, Justin. I'm excited to maybe get into more detail about him once, in the summer, we start talking about our sleepers for fantasy. Once everybody's drafted and signed and the rosters are set, I think that's a guy that we might most definitely be able to talk about. Him, Wando Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, I think it's going to take some time. I'm very disappointed. I loved him at the University of Tennessee. He's been a little bit of a disappointment. I think Wando Robinson has gotten more targets and snaps more than he has. So hopefully he can have a breakout year with Jameis Winston or Russell Wilson.
No, I agree. I think Jalen Hyatt's going to be a little bit tough to get consistent value out of, even though Russell Wilson, when he was introduced to the team, said he thinks he's a guy who has a lot of untapped potential. So Russell Wilson, if he believes in him, maybe he puts more of a concerted effort into getting Hyatt the ball. As for the other guys, I think you labeled it out perfectly. It was really great advice. Kind of late draft picks. Theo Johnson, I think, would be my favorite of the sleeper Giants players because Wandale might be competing for targets with Neighbors and Hunter in that receiver room. Or I think Theo Johnson, that if you get 6 to 7 targets out of Theo Johnson, he's a top 15 tight end. Like I will be happy with that. He's going to his second season. And I think that going into your second season, you are now also the set it and forget it starting tight end. Whereas last year was some hazy room with, Darren Waller was like, I'm going to retire. I don't know, maybe. And then he finally does retire. Yeah. But now Theo Johnson gets a full offseason as the lead guy. So I agree. I like that there. But overall, the Giants, the last thing we'll talk about before we move on. Giants, division landscape. Do you think that they're still set for last? And does that mean that Russell Wilson and Jameis maybe are not starting quarterbacks for this team next year? What do you think?
Well, I'll answer your last question first. I don't think either of them ends up on the team next year. I think Russell Wilson is actually closer to retirement than we think. He's been in the season for the league for a while. As where Jameis Winston could have somewhat of a prove-it season. He did in Cleveland, and he could be on the move. He could be the backup for Jordan Love next year or Jalen Hurts or Mahomes or whoever, CJ Stroud. And so Jameis Winston will kind of be that backup that's going to be moving from team to team every year. So I do think that whatever happens this offseason, I think that there's going to be another team in the NFL that might fall out with their quarterback, which will lead to part ways. And I think that the Giants might hop on that. As far as division standings, you know what, Justin? I do now like the Giants to move up as third in that division. Okay. Wow. I think that Cowboys, if I'm looking at it right now, I'm not feeling so hot about the Dallas Cowboys right now. And I think I'm starting to think that, we did talk about the Cowboys in another episode, but I think that they're actually the worst team now. For some reason, I like the Russell and the Jameis Winston signing. It feels like they got stability there, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of competition all summer leading into the preseason between those two quarterbacks, not to mention DeVito, who's very familiar with the system. And I feel like it's actually going to create some competitiveness within this Giants team. And I like them to win some more games than they did last season. So I like them third. And you know what, Justin? I think that they can challenge Washington in one of their two matchups for sure. I think one matchup between Washington, they potentially could get blown out. But in their other matchup, whether it's road or at home, I think that they can definitely steal one off in Washington, but not against the reigning champs, not yet.
No, yeah, I don't think they're at that level yet. I'm gonna
Right.
still place them in fourth, but I see it because Daboll and Shane, the GM and the head coach, they're playing for their jobs this year. They decided to go a veteran quarterback route, which is to get wins instead of building on a rookie quarterback that you're going to probably have a down season. They're going to put a lot of their eggs into this season, into this basket. So I think they will improve. And as for the Cowboys, yeah, they have a lot of spots that they need to, a lot of holes they need to fill that we discussed in our episode. If y'all are curious, go back and check it out with the Dallas Cowboys. But yeah, go ahead.
One last thing. I mentioned a quarterback falling out with their team. The team that I'm actually talking about is Jacksonville. Like Trevor Lawrence is entering to his 5th season. I know they paid him all that money, but if he doesn't, get the job done this season, Justin,
should make some calls or what?
I think the Giants will make some calls. I think that's one quarterback that this offseason, or a guy that Justin we're not really happy about anymore. Kyler Murray. Those are two quarterbacks that just at the end of this 2025 season, where they're at. If they're not in the playoffs, they didn't have a good season statistically. One of those two quarterbacks may be on the move. Those two former number 1 picks may be on the move to New York because I don't think Russell will be back next year. It's a one and done. Jameis might be a backup. Yeah, he might be. He'll still be in the league. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
I like that. That is spicy, and we'll leave Dween Nation with that thought because that is really interesting. Good ideas there. But thank you, Dween Nation, for listening. We're 8 teams through our 32 team discussion of offseason deep dive and outlook for next year. But thank you guys for listening. Stay tuned for more episodes in Genoa. Send us out.
Yo, Dween Nation. This was our NFC East videos ending on with the Giants. We have many more divisions leading up to the draft. And thank you guys for watching. We love you guys. And as always, peace.